down, oh, dance to your partner, well, before you taught her shake. Wasn't the truth, I told you so, there's lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. One morning Tim felt rather full, his head was heavy, which made him shake. Well, he fell off the ladder and broke his skull, and they carried him home a corpse to wake. Well, they wrapped him up in a nice clean sheet, and they laid him out upon the bed. Gallon of porter at his feet, and a naggin of whiskey at his head. Whack for you down, oh, dance to your partner, well, before you taught her shake. Wasn't the truth, I told you so, there's lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. His friends assembled at the wake, and Mrs. Finnegan called for lunch. First she brought out tea and cakes, then pipes, tobacco, whiskey punch. Then Biddy O'Brien began to cry, such a nice clean corpse did you ever see? Tim Overeem, why did you die? Up none of you come, said Biddy McGee. Whack for you down, oh, dance to your partner, well, before you taught her shake. Wasn't the truth, I told you so, there's lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Then Maggie O'Connor took up the job. Biddy says she, you're wrong, I'm sure. Then Biddy gave her a belt in the gum, and she left her sprawled out on the floor. Then the war did soon engage, was woman to woman and man to man. Shillelagh law was all the rage, her own eruption soon began. Whack for you now, oh, dance to your partner, well, before you taught her shake. Wasn't the truth, I told you so, there's lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Then Mickey Maloney raised his hand, when a naggin of whiskey flew at him. Well, it missed and fallen on the bed, oh, the whiskey scattered over Tim. Well, be God he revive, see how he rises, Timothy rising from the dead. Send Warlock whiskey round like blazes, sunrise Jesus, do you think I'm dead? Whack for you down, oh, dance to your partner, well, before you taught her shake. Wasn't the truth, I told you so, there's lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake. Whack for you down, oh, dance to your partner, well, before you taught her shake. Wasn't the truth, I told you so, there's lots of fun at Finnegan's Wake.
Oh, the seagulls are calling, and the wind is in its sail, and she's fast moving out to the sea, on a ship bound for St. John's, 3,000 miles away. A human cargo, me comrades and me. So farewell, green valleys, God keep you the same. If in only my mind you'll be. I'm sailing back waters to far America. Nevermore my green valleys I'll see. It hurts me to think of the things I left behind, though the famine has blackened the land. And to look now for something that I may never find is a problem that's now close at hand. So farewell, green valleys, God keep you the same. If in only my mind you'll be. I'm sailing back waters to far America. Nevermore my green valleys I'll see. There's a fever raging, and the wind has died away, and our journey will no longer be. For the plague is a shadow that lingers night and day. For my thoughts of green valleys I'll see. So farewell, green valleys, God keep you the same. If in only my mind you'll be. I'm sailing that waters to far America. Nevermore my green valleys I'll see.
Good morning, and it's City Life live in Dracut, and I'm very glad to have our guests here tonight. Camera K this morning. It seems like night.
Seems like nighttime, yeah.
Camera K
morning.
from Lowell, who's running for state representative in the 16th,
18 district.
18th Middlesex District, and Betsy Murphy, chair of the Dracut
morning.
School Committee. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm still in St. Patrick's Day mode. Still another event today, but good morning. We may be having some snow on Monday.
That's what I've been told.
It's a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The crocuses have already popped. It's just not fair.
I know my tulips are starting to come out.
Are they?
Yes, they are.
So you both were at the St. Patrick's Day dinner last night.
We were.
Indeed.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It
had a
was
really good
awesome.
time.
Yeah.
Yep, I love all the jokes.
Were they good?
Yeah, they were good.
Did anybody really fail with their jokes?
Well, there were a couple, but needless to say, the overall jokes were very nice and clean. I expected a little bit dirty from what I was told from last year,
Yeah.
but it sounds great.
Did anybody have any good jokes for Rita? Rita usually.
No.
No.
Not one. No. Now that you say that, you mean University.
Yeah.
You mean not one.
Yeah.
Nope.
But they did get on Rodney Elliott. I thought that was the funniest thing.
Oh, really?
But there was a mistranslation from Roddy Mom said it in the Cambodian language versus what he translated as the wedding crasher
Oh.
in the Cambodian. Well, it's true. I mean, the Cambodian community loves Rodney Elliott. I mean, he was just everywhere, every weekend.
Yeah.
You name it. There's not a major event in the Cambodian community that did not have Rodney Elliott there.
Yeah.
So everyone loves him. So,
Good. Yeah, he was a very good mayor, I think. Now, we've got, it's City Life in Dracut. Betsy, we're going to start with you because you're here only till 7 o'clock.
Actually,
You gotta
about
go to
quarter
work.
of because,
Okay.
yes, I need to go teach.
We've got exciting things going on in Dracut right now.
We do, especially the
The
telethon.
telethon. Last night, second night of the telethon, the Dracut Scholarship Foundation telethon. They raised over $100,000 over the last several years. They've been doing it since 1984,
What a thing, huh?
I think.
Amazing.
I-
Started by Bruce Hutchins, is that
Started
correct?
by Bruce
Former
Hutchins.
principal of the high school?
Yep, and I'm very proud to have said that I'm a former recipient, but I was also president of the Scholarship Foundation for several years.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I hosted the telethon for several years, so I'm going back tonight. They're dedicating this year to Helen Gibson, who
Member
was-
of my church.
Yeah, she was a great lady. She was actually president right before me, and but she was also one of my Girl Scout leaders.
Oh, wow.
And great family in Dracut, and 7 children, and so they're dedicating this year to her. She passed away this year, but she was quite a character. So tonight I'm going to share some memories and do a little
Very
something
special to
tonight.
you, obviously.
Yeah. She was a great lady. So the telethon is over 90,000 so far,
That's what I saw reported this morning, over 90,000. I don't know the exact number, but
and their goal is 125.
that's right.
And what I really liked about it, each one of my sisters and I received a scholarship, and it's a blind scholarship in that it looks at the grades and the activities of the student.
Nobody's name's on the application.
Yeah, they're numbered, and after they're chosen by the committee, they're matched up. Where my dad was assistant superintendent of schools for so many years, it was always, you need not apply to this scholarship, you need not apply to that. this was one that you truly earned, and each one of us received it. And so it was very, very heartwarming when you found out that the people of Drake were behind you. And so it's really an incredible scholarship.
It's really unmatched that I know of. I don't know of any other school system that has
And you know,
this kind of activity that's been going on for so long and raises so much money.
yeah, and other schools, I remember we went out to, I think we went to Tewksbury to talk about it years ago. And others, I think others have tried to duplicate ours, but never have picked up. And I remember back in my days, Bruce Hutchins said, you know, we don't know how long this thing is going to last. You know, it might peter out at some point. So we've got to make the most of it and so forth. And it's been going for many, many years.
And it's all volunteer
so
hours, which is
it's
amazing,
incredible.
and a lot of hours.
Gary Muse, who is the director of it, the technical director of it, has been doing it since he was in high school himself.
Oh, wow.
And he actually has been out sick, but he made sure he got back to do this. So kudos to Gary, who is the director of Drake Cable Access and a good friend. So he's been there, and it's just extraordinary. The businesses, the individuals, the people who have been doing it for many, many years. And I know when I was on there, everybody just had their roles, and you just did what you needed to do, and it just all fell together. So now my sister, who has twins who are juniors, is
I know, I
involved
can't
with
believe
it
that
now.
either. Oh my gosh.
I know.
It goes so fast.
I remember the old birthday parties when your daughter Laura would come to the twins' birthdays. So
They were in preschool together, all
Yeah,
three of them.
yeah,
Oh, it goes so
yeah.
fast.
So, so you're up for re-election.
I
saw
am.
Laura at your party.
Yes.
And you had a great party over at the Sports Zone.
It couldn't have gone any better, really. People are supportive, especially on a beautiful day.
I have to admit, I sat there and went,
Should I go to
hate
Betsy's?
Sunday. I hate afternoon on a gorgeous day. Why does anybody do it? And then I realized my party's on a Sunday afternoon at 1. So I was like,
Well,
oh,
I appreciate
yeah.
you. I appreciate you joining us, and
Yeah.
you know, I have a wonderful family and great friends, and everybody's very supportive, and I really appreciate that. And a lot of people that agree with the message that I hopefully am projecting, or I have projected over the last 3 years, and will continue to, about how we need to support our school system and how we need to move forward, and all things that are
What
important
are your
to it.
goals for re-election?
Well, I want to win. Just want to say that first of all. The platform, I guess, is probably the word you're talking about, right? I'm going to continue to advocate for the kind of funds that we need for the things we need for the public school system. And I'm sure I sound like a broken record, and I'm not surprised that anybody would tell me that. But it is a continuing issue. The most important thing to me at this particular moment in time is addressing the result of the health survey that we heard about last Monday at our school committee meeting.
And I was there, and I saw you tear up at some points, and I was pretty astonished by some of those results.
It's
Scary.
you hate to use words like scary or frightening, or one gentleman said to me, "This is terrifying," because those are panic-laden words, and
What
I
was
don't want
the
anyone
health scare that you guys referring to?
The one that really hit me was the number of students who actually thought about suicide and those who had actually attempted it.
That was the one that got me.
Was really
9% of our middle school students.
Wow.
Yeah.
At that age?
Correct.
That young?
Yes.
What,
had thought of it. Seriously
thought of it.
thought
What-
of it.
And 2 said they hadn't made a plan and attempted. That's the one that got me.
what was the possible, was there any follow-up question as to possible of why such a thought had occurred?
The survey was conducted by, and I forget the exact name of it, so my apologies, but the Professional Survey Center at UMass Boston. And they know what they're doing, essentially. They took it. Some parents said, well, I asked my child about this, and they weren't a part of the survey. And the reason for that is that and the statistics is certainly not my area of expertise, so I'll put that right out there. But these people, that is their area of expertise, and they do random sampling, which is part of keeping the results valid and reliable. So not every student was asked. That's absolutely true, and there are reasons for that. There's a methodology to this. So the follow-up, I think, would come if we, as a school committee, directed our administration to take the next step and do some follow-ups, and I think that's something that we're going to need to talk about. I'm still, it took me a few days just to even process everything I heard. Certainly the suicide one was the one that hit me the most. What kind of pain is this? I mean, we all know adolescents. We've all been adolescents, right? It's
Right.
never an easy time. In middle school in particular, I mean, I don't know about you, but I had much more fun in high school than I did in middle school.
Oh,
Middle school, you're just trying to figure it all out,
But
and
the-
who likes me and who doesn't, and
Right.
take 3 pictures here. We're done, thank you.
But let me ask
Certainly.
you, let's take a step back a little. Now you got me interesting to find out even more. What was the suspicion, for a lack of a better word, or any of those questions we're looking at, that have you guys thought, why did you guys have this company here or commission them to do a survey in the first place in terms of suspecting why Dracut students have such a thought in the first place?
it's a good question. The survey was conducted last spring, and it obviously takes a while to have the results. As a committee, we've been concerned for quite a while about how we're going to address the mental health needs in our school system, because we're continuing to hear from our teachers and our support staff, nurses and counselors, that they're overwhelmed with the need of the students that they're teaching. And we need to find a way to quantify and justify what we've been saying that we need more adjustment counselors and we need more mental health workers in our school system. And the reality is, whether you agree with it or not, the reality is that the school system is, all school systems are now charged through the laws that govern education with making sure that our students have the proper mental health screenings and support, and their families do as well. That's number one. Number two, students can't and won't learn well when there are mental health issues, which, I mean, it's common sense. I'm probably preaching to the choir, so to speak. When there are mental health issues that are not being addressed, students often start to self-medicate. Human beings start to self-medicate. So another part of the survey was, have you tried alcohol? Have you thought about trying alcohol? Do you think your friends have tried alcohol? Have you tried drugs? Have you used drugs in the last, I forget how many hours it was or weeks it was. Were you surprised by the number of middle school kids I had? I was surprised.
Yeah,
Do I
the
think kids
age.
experiment?
Some
The
of it was the
age.
age of how they first started. That was something. The bullying was part of it. The self-hurting.
Self-inflicted?
Self-mutilation,
Yeah.
which again is certainly a mental health issue in and of itself, but can also be a symptom of something much deeper that's
Right.
not being addressed.
Because they're trying to get the attention. I think
They're trying to do something, and that's probably
to get notice or to
Well,
let
actually,
somebody know.
I think it's something about the
is a sensory input, I think,
Yeah,
is what I've been
yeah,
told.
yeah.
Trying to
that it actually
self-regulate,
feels good to them to do that.
which
I don't
seems
know.
odd to us, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably one of the most alarming things I've heard, because myself, I was a former program chair at a college level
Oh, I didn't know that.
for about 5 years before I came back to the city here. When I was talking to students way back then, mental issue was not being addressed, but myself, as their academic advisor, noticed the pattern, but not so much a concentration on peer pressures and so forth, more or less that these students have multiple responsibilities, because these are the young adults who have to work, who have to be responsible for their own, with their living by themselves, and some of them are single mothers, some of them are single father, some of them were convicted felons and so forth. So it was very difficult trying to get them to focus on what they were doing. Knowingly kept to reemphasize and said, guys, you know, you have to finish your degree, because otherwise it's just like you take money and spend on a certain thing and you never accomplish. You never get your investment back. So there was a reinforcement for so long. When I took over the program, it was such in a shape that was unrecognizable. The motivation of the students and so forth, the interaction between the staff and the students is so cold. There was no warmness or any of those. So for some reason, I managed to identify that working at least 14 hours a day.
Oh, my.
to address it, because the school, I get to the school probably around 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't get home until like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It just is a constant thing that you know, my wife's like said, I had to quit that job. No, it was just, it was so, for me, I took it very personal, because knowingly what my background, where I came from and so forth, it was very hard for those students to
So you could identify
yes.
with them and were invested in them because you understand from whence they came.
Correct. And when I took over the program, our graduation rate was in the low 60s. And considering the student debt ratios and all of that, it was a call. Even the accreditors that came in, it's like, this is not acceptable. And then that's why President Obama came into, like, you know, once you graduate from college, you need to find a job for them and all that. It was just too much for that because of the debt ratio that we were facing. And so those, the type of thing that we had to discuss as administrators in those aspects. So we had to take the necessary step. We need to find some way to combat dropout. So by the time I left, my graduation in the School of Technology and Electronics, it's just my school alone, we're graduating students in the 90 percentile.
Wow, what a jump.
So
Congratulations.
it was, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Because of my personal sacrifice to get away to the family, just to make sure that these guys were graduating.
I don't think people really have a grasp, nor could they really, of the hours that public servant puts in if they're doing the job well.
Right.
There's a lot of unseen hours.
Right. And so when I was running for the law school committee, the thing that I was addressing is to find some sort of engagement, some sort of transformative teachings to allow the students and the teacher to be able to interact with each other so that they feel that they are more invested in their educations, so that they feel they want it and that they trust their teacher more to talk. So all my students, my doors is wide open. I shouldn't say wide open. Even my door was closed, and with a little bit of the windows like this, they'll be like looking through and knocking, and it's like, are you busy? And I said, no, go away. They would just walk in, and it's like, say, why are you trying to hide from me? So there was the connection between the students and myself, and from that, I found that out by accident. And so what we did, and it's like, that's a great way of looking at it. So I had my staff meeting and kept reinforcing, say, the only way we can get students to participate in their educations, their likeliness to come to school every day, and their attendance are up and so forth, we need to get them to trust us.
Everything's about that relationship.
Correct.
Yeah.
Even just, we did a transformative teaching. When I used to be in the classroom or substituting, when I walk in there, I would write a quote on a board that has absolutely nothing to do with the classroom whatsoever. They would like said, what does that mean? What is that all about? So we spend about 10 to 15 minutes in the classroom talking about what the quote means, what is that has to relate it to life experiences, and give them that. And they love coming to school all the time. So had I won, I would have implementing some sort of training. I know the lack of resources and money and so forth, but we need to find some sensible way to find that funding in order to teach these teachers to say, interacting with our students, make them feel much more welcome instead of their dreading going to school in the morning and said, I don't want to go to school. They would pretend that they're sick. Their body is breaking down mentally, physically, and so forth. I mean, going back to the survey that you just said, that is very disheartening. It's very saddening to me.
And I doubt it's just Drake it. Excuse me for interrupting.
No,
I mean,
no.
it's not possible. It's just Drake it.
No. I mean, what I failed to tell you guys, that I spent 5 years as the program chair, was down in Georgia. So you can see the geographic student behavior, no matter where you go, it's going to be similar because of the social media, because of the, what is those TV shows, reality TV shows, that they
I don't
follow.
think they're reality. I think they're
Students would
scripted, but that's all right.
correct. They come in and talking about it all the time, and I try to be as upbeat as possible and trying to stay abreast what they were thinking, and some of them they're like, "Oh, Mr. K, we didn't know you know about that." And it's like, no, I pretend like I know, and they think that I'm too smart for them and all of that. Statistically looking at, when I took the opportunity to look at all of that, you know, even though my program graduated in the 90s in percentile, would you believe that some of the famous, well-known colleges and universities in the United States have a failure rate of about anywhere between 11 to 15%? Thinking about you
I
have
don't think I
10,000.
knew it was that high.
Right. Thinking about 10,000, I'm so sorry for this interruption. Thinking about 10,000 student body in a college level, and you have 15% of the students drop out by their second year. Thinking about how many that is.
Especially when you sign that student loan.
Yeah, I remember when I was in ULowell many years ago,
Yeah, I hear you.
I remember them sitting us all down in this major hall and saying, look to your right, look to your left, one of you won't be here next year. And then when I went to law school, I'm sitting in the room and they said, look to your right, look to the left. And I went, oh no.
Here we
not
go
that
again.
They said every one of you will be in graduation. in
Oh,
4
they
years."
said the opposite.
So it was really nice, but
Oh,
you know,
nice.
I think the biggest thing, and I applaud you and the superintendent, the board,
Thank you.
for doing this survey and coming out publicly about it. For so long, people have said, "Oh, we can't say that. That'll make us look bad," and you know, we can't address a problem unless it's quantified.
Thank you for saying that.
And people need to realize that this is what kids are going through today.
And they're going to walk out into our community. They're not, excuse me for interrupting, they're not going to graduate and say, oh, I'm not going to do those things anymore. So this is a community issue.
You know, it's funny, just myself, I grew up in Dracut, went to the Dracut Public Schools, and there was a girl who we went all the way from first grade all the way to graduating together. Large family in Dracut, and she was always kind of rough and tough, but she was very intelligent. She was always in the top level classes when we had level classes.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw her a couple of years after graduation, and she had a nervous breakdown. And it was like once she left the school system, her security was gone.
Yes.
And
Very well put.
The
The structure of school is helpful to some
It
people.
was devastating to find out. I ran into her at the old Stewart's department store. We went across the street to Burger
Stewart's,
King
wow.
for a cup of coffee, and she went on to tell me about her nervous breakdown and how she had been an incest victim for many years. And you never would have known at that point. You know, people talk about sex offenders and you know, why is it all there? I think all of this was happening, but nobody was talking about it. And I think it was very brave of the school department to come out and say, we're going to address this, we're going to look at it, we're going to be honest with people about what the level of concerns are. And so I do appreciate that. I sat there myself and was very frightened.
It was
by
so
the results.
fortuitous that you were there.
Yeah, very frightened to see
It was
what was
scary.
going on. But I think as a society, we need to realize that you know, we have to focus on these issues. And you know, people talk about, you know, school shootings and everything else, and if we're not helping these kids, and it really technically is not the job of educators to do that, but
Our job is everything.
you
I'm
know,
not trying
it
to be
turns out
dramatic,
but it turns out to be.
It's true.
it absolutely
know?
does.
Yeah,
And
because-
whenever you hate to talk about school shootings because those are frightening. Well, we live in an era where teachers and administrators are now in charge of the safety of students and staff in a way they never have been before.
Agree.
So schools aren't islands unto themselves. Kids come in and out with their family issues, and then they graduate with their family issues, and life comes into our school system. And
Right.
I think sometimes we look at it as a separate entity, and it's not. In fact,
Yeah, because
Well, I'm sorry.
educators nowadays, not only they have to educate, but they have to become an advisor, look out for some sort of different sign. They become babysitters. You name it, it's a whole 9 yards.
Nutritionists now.
that's
You
true.
gotta
Yeah, I
make
know,
sure
I
that-
know. That's
that they're
another story in
eating
and of
and-
itself.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but say, and you, how many hours, let's say, I don't want to ask you how many hours you're teaching. Considering, let's say, when people found out, say, oh, you only teach 5 hours a day, that's an easy job. I dare people to go ahead and try to teach 5 hours a day, but what they're lacking to understand is that what about the homework that you have to grade, the resources you don't have to. When I first stepped in the classroom, and you can relate to this, so I asked students, I had about 20 students in the classroom. I said, okay, there's going to be a 10-page paper here. Please write it, and they corrected. When I first started correcting the paper, I realized I was such a dumb dude.
To give us assignment.
Right.
I've done that.
It's
What was
like-
I thinking?
What was I thinking? Now I just realized that I have to read 200 pages of this assignment here and have to return. And when I told the students that, yeah, you know, I'll give you guys the next time we meet. I was like, I must be dumb.
Maybe I
What
have
was
to rethink
thinking?
that timeline, right?
Right. It was like I was so nuts. And then by reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, what were they teaching these kids in high school? Grammatic error. And then I realized, I said, you know what, I'm going to correct these on the electronic format on Word. So I handed out to all the students. One of them cried. They said, Mr. K, did I do that bad? And I said, no, 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 no. It was all of these are just suggestions. And they had to read about it, and it's like,
Yes, the point is to learn. It's not to say,
Correct.
boy, you're bad at this.
right. And it's like, oh.
So I guess I want to get back to, what do you think the next steps are with this survey?
That's a really good question. I know the next step that I'm going to take is, I've already spoken to Chairman Archinsky of the, he's the chair of the Board of Selectmen in Drake, as you know, but now you know about the fact that I'm going to come to their meeting on Tuesday and speak at community input. And I asked, and it has happened, that our school system, pass on the report to their administrator assistant. So they will have a copy of it.
Right.
Because they need to know. I'm trying to sow the seeds of, we are all in this together, and everybody needs to understand the depth of the problem. I'm not saying you need to go fix it. I'm saying that we all need, this needs to be a community conversation.
Right.
Number one. Number two, I'm going to continue to advocate for the fact that we need finances to support the salaries for adjustment counselors and people that can, gosh, I wish I could remember the ratio. I think it's one adjustment counselor to every, I'm not going to say it because it'll be wrong, some 500 kids in the school system, and it's not nearly as accurate as it should be, but it's something in that range. And there's no possible way to screen that many number of children. Basically, that adjustment counselor is a crisis counselor, where something horrific has already happened. So instead of being proactive, we're being reactive, which is never a good way to manage anything, in my opinion. Certainly not the mental health needs of anybody. And those are my immediate next steps.
Because it does affect police, fire.
Absolutely
any-
does.
Any of the, the emergency responses and so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is the override.
Yes.
There's actually 2 overrides.
There are
You
two
prob-
questions.
You probably would have liked to have seen one.
I would have preferred to see one. What I don't want to see, and I think there was a little bit, and it's quieted down, is anger or at least continued anger over the decision for there to be 2 questions. Decision's been made. We're going to move on from here. I'm going to vote for yes for both of them because they're both valid and
Why
they're
don't you tell
necessary
viewers
and they're
what they-
reasonable.
what
What
are
is the
2?
questions referring
The
to?
first question is to have, I don't know the legal language, I guess you'd know that better than I, an override of Proposition 2.5 by, I believe it's $500,000 for the hiring of more police officers and firefighters. I think it's 6 firefighters and 2 police officers, I think is what the request